we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another episode of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. We're here to review the 1-1 draw at home to Brighton. Yeah, 1-1 draw. We're a bit devastated, but we're also here to review the closing of the transfer window. Even though I've got people still tweeting me about free transfers, I'm like, get out, you're blocked. I'm not talking about transfers again until January, and I'm not even sure I want to talk about them then. Guys, exhausted from my perspective, the transfer window. I bet yours as well, Adam, because you go into more detail than I do on it. Sorry, I'm joined by my two guests. Neil Shah with me. How you doing, Neil, in a classic 2005-2006 shirt, or 2006-2007? I might have got that wrong.
I can't remember. You're probably not better than me. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing? You all right? You and Adam both okay?
Yeah, recovering. We're both recovering. Yeah.
Not good, but
this will be cathartic, won't it? As you say.
Yeah.
Adam Keys from the Arsenal Therapy Podcast is back again. How you doing, Adam? Could be happier times, but hey, we're used to this. We always bounce back. How you doing, Adam?
Yeah, doing good. Disappointed, still frustrated, but look, we'll bounce back. It's the beginning of the season. There's still a long way to go at this stage, but how are you doing, mate? You good?
Yep. Good. Starting to already look ahead, which is crazy because you've got tougher games to come. They don't get easier, do they? But we do have a little interlull here, which is just crazy to me. I don't even know what these international games are for. I don't care either. I'm sure none of you do either. Ridiculous 3 games into the season, but it is what it is. Maybe we need a little break to take stock of what's happened there. So we're going to talk about the Brighton game and the transfer window, of course, and our last minute transfer purchase. I don't know about you boys, but I personally don't remember a transfer kind of activating that late in the window, meaning like in a matter of hours. I don't think even 4 hours before that we really knew much about Raheem Sterling coming. We knew there was a link, but it wasn't really looking like it was moving. So we've got to talk about that. But before we get into the game, we've got to talk about the referee controversy. I mean, there's a few little things in the game that might develop off this. I think we've got to talk about it. So 49th minute, Declan Rice, Veltman, the scenario. Neil, what's your take on it? From, obviously the referee, Declan Rice, internal perspective as well. What are your thoughts on the incident?
Blimey. So when I first saw it, I was just confused as hell. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was convinced that it was the Brighton player that was going to get sent off because I thought he actually lashed out at Rice. And then all of a sudden he shows the second yellow to Declan, and I'm like, what? I was just looking completely perplexed, didn't know, and I was like, I was watching it with your brother. I just looked at him and I said, what's going on? I just didn't understand. And then it's only after then they started looking into it, because obviously there was a bit of a delay, Rice going off the pitch and whatnot. And then they said because he delayed the start. And I still couldn't quite understand. And then you realise that there was a little tap just to deviate the ball, which was still in play, by the way. So even if they wanted to take a free kick, they wouldn't have been able to, because the ball was still rolling. That's what I saw. But what annoyed me, I mean, I think that everyone is going on about, and maybe it's right, that it's the letter of the law, it is a yellow, because that's what they're doing. But for me, common sense should always prevail. The ball is not like deviated to a sense that, that they're going to lose 3 or 4 seconds or 10 seconds of time. They really just pick the ball up from where it was moved to, and it wouldn't have made any difference. And the fact that then there was an argument that, well, it stopped him taking the free kick early, the way his foot went, and which ended up hitting Declan Rice, was no way was going to be able to hit the ball anyway. To me, that looked like more of a kick than he was at Declan, or a lash out at Declan, rather than him attempting to take the free kick early. That's what it looked like to me. But anyway, having said that, letter of the law and all of this, blah, 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 yeah, fine. So then what happened to Pedro, where he actually booted the ball halfway down the line? when it was clearly already way out and he knew what he was doing? How does that not delay the start or the restart? And why is that there's no yellow for that? So it's about consistency again, isn't it? It's about consistency. Forget about all the fouls that went flying on all our players before as well. There was quite a few of those in the match. So to be said that I was left fuming and frustrated is pretty much the understatement of the year, guys. I just could not believe it at the time. When I understood the reason why, I was still fuming because I thought, well, that's a really stupid and tiny little thing that they've picked up on. Could you not have used a bit of common sense? And then why is it that you're not being consistent anyway? So there was like so many factors. And then, of course, let's not forget that completely changed the game. Yes, there was a few chances that were a little bit wasteful and we should have put away. But however, I think we still would have dominated and probably gone on to win the match had we had 11 players still on the pitch. So, I was fuming. And to be honest, I'm still not over it, to be fair. Yes, it was a good point because Brighton are a tough side. But I think in order to be able to compete with City this season, I think those kind of games at home, we really should be able to be putting away. I know that's a big ask, especially Brighton's going to, hurt a few teams this season. But I still think we had enough to beat them. I was just bereft of disappointment, to be fair, and frustration.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that, really. I think I'll add, this ref we've known for a while has lacked common sense with us. There's been a lot of instances with Kavanagh. I personally don't think he should be refereeing Arsenal games. When you look back at the stuff, he reported us for celebrating in the last second against Bournemouth, or you considered it. And there was a lot of others in there. What I would say, from my perspective, it's got me a lot of heat on Twitter, but I think Declan Rice is silly. I really do. I think he's silly. More for the first incident, of course. It's not a 50-50. He comes out in the interview, says it's not a 50-50, Declan. It's a 60-40 against the very best. You're never getting that ball, and you're very athletic, but you're never getting that ball. I remember us all texting when it happened and went, that was stupid from Rice, wasn't it? And I think it's part of that tackle is part of his frustration in the start of his own season, because he's looked off the pace. To me, he's not looked fit. We probably should be resting him, to be fair to him, but we can't because the games are too difficult. We've got too difficult a start. And in the second incident, I completely agree. Common sense, the ref looks at both of them and says, hey, knock it off, you two. This is ridiculous. Carry on with the game, right? And I don't know. The only thing I'll say about that incident is I have absolutely no idea how Veltman doesn't get booked if you're going to send Declan Rice off. You have to book Veltman at the very least, minimum. So that's the issue. But the ref, through the first half, as we saw, he was only carding one team. We could see that he was looking for an opportunity. And my biggest frustration, to be honest, is not that the ref's completely inept, because we know what the PGML is anyway, and the referees from Greater Manchester, etc. We all know this anyway. We know it's not going to change. It hasn't changed since I've been watching Arsenal. We talk about Mike Riley headquarters, right? Battle of Old Trafford. It's never changed. It won't change. So Declan Rice has to be better than it, in my opinion, because it's not going to change. We can't sit here and go, the refs need to be better, because it's never going to happen. It doesn't happen. They're just all useless, and we all know they favour a certain area of the country anyway. So that's my frustration. I don't think Rice should do it. It's a ridiculously small tap. It's never a sending off, really, if you've got any common sense, but we know they don't have any. Adam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, just from yesterday's games alone, Kulusevski, Guehi, Kukurea, Porro, Joe Linton, Palmer, Bruno Guimaraes, and Dallo all kicked the ball away. None of them got booked. Apparently, Palmer did, but the report I saw, he didn't.
He got booked later on.
For a different incident.
Palmer, it was the different incident. I'm almost certain. I was watching I was watching that with Tottenham, but he got booked later on for something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes were both on yellow cards whenever it happened, and neither of them were booked. As Neil mentioned, João Pedro hoofed the ball the length of the pitch. But we talk about consistencies in the letter of the law. Let's be honest, that's not true. The whole letter of the law thing, Declan Rice didn't give the ref a choice. The ref always has a choice to make. It's common sense, and he didn't use it yesterday. The issue for me is we talk about the letter of the law. 3 or 4 Brighton players surround the ref. Danny Welbeck's waving an imaginary yellow card. That, by the letter of the law, is a yellow card. Again, there was an incident in the first half. I think it might have been for Rice's initial tackle. 3 Brighton players surround the ref. So if you talk about the letter of the law and it has to be applied under any circumstance, regardless of common sense, there should have been a lot of Brighton yellow cards yesterday. And that's what frustrates me. It's the incident changed the game. You're 2 minutes into the second half. All he needs to say is, right, lads, calm down. You've kicked him. You've tapped the ball away. Let's get on with this. Regroup, restart, and move on. He goes out looking for trouble, and when you've got, was it Mark Halsey came out and said that he looked for trouble and he found it, he changed the game. For me, it's just so frustrating because I think we win that game 3 or 4-0 without that red card. And the frustrating part is I've never seen that happen before. We'll probably not see it again. It's like Tomiyasu's 2 yellows within a minute last year. Martinelli's 2 yellows for 1 passage of play. All these things seem to happen to Arsenal. It's this time of the year where refs are overly strict with the application of the rules. And this one's changed the game, cost us 3 points or 2 points. And we're now in a position that there's a lot of negativity around the fan base. And there's a lot of fear as well. I think ultimately that's what it is. It's fear of City because they're so good. And this incident's played a major role in it. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, all the instances you come up with, claiming the letter of the law thing is ridiculous in itself because they don't interpret. So much of it is open to interpretation, and the referees bend the rules, where they can, and this was just an incident that just needed a little bit of common sense, but. I don't know why I look at it because I have absolutely no faith in the PGML or the referees. I always look at it from a introspective factor, right? And I'm like, what should we have done better here? And I can't help but look at it from our own perspective and believe that Mikel should have been talking to him at half time about this referee because Saka was getting pulled down left, right and centre, getting knocked off the ball by Matoma. They weren't even giving fouls, let alone bookings for him. They weren't even giving fouls for him. So when you look at the foul sheet, I don't care about it because they weren't giving fouls. They were actually fouls. There was 2 or 3 on Saka that should have been given that weren't. I think he should have been said at the centre half time. Don't do anything silly with this ref because he's looking to be the centre of attention. I thought he was dreadful in the first half. I really did. And I think, right, look, he's never been sent off in his career. He knows. He came out obviously saying stuff for the TV. I'm sure internally he's thinking it's a ridiculous decision to send him off and to be banned for the North London derby. And to a degree, I agree with him. But at the same time, I look at it and go, do you know what? I wish he just walked away now. I also, Adam, I have to say, I don't think going down to 10 men, 1-0 up at home to Brighton should have had that big effect on us in the next 20 minutes. I don't think it should. I don't think Mikel Arteta has ever really perfected the art of playing with 10 men. I've watched all the games when we played with 10 men, and it works when it's near the end of the game with him. But basically it works because he retreats, brings on an extra defender, which he delayed doing, by the way. I don't know why he delayed doing it. It really irritated me because I was watching it just like you were going, we're not touched the ball here. This can't go on. We can't play like this. And clearly the whole team was a little bit shell-shocked. And I don't think we should be. I remember years, and I hate bringing up the Wenger years because there's obviously the latter part that everyone talks about. But we used to go down to 10 men with Wenger and we'd improve. We'd get better. We'd go to Anfield and win with 10 men for the whole game. And, this is peak Wenger, of course, I'm talking about. But I don't ever remember a Mikel Arteta side watching us and going down to 10 men and feeling like we were continuing to play in the game. And what was actually quite encouraging for me was after 20 minutes, I felt we did start to do that. And that was probably the best I'd seen us play with 10 men under Mikel Arteta. But it was too late because the 20 minutes had cost us. We'd conceded a goal by that point. I think we could have conceded another in that point, in that part of the game, to be honest. And we looked collectively shell-shocked. I mean, when do you see Saliba and Gabriel get split open like that by a pass? It's not because we're down to 10 men. It's because collectively, I think we didn't really know how to adapt and adjust to having 10 men and where we were supposed to be. Obviously, Thomas Partey didn't look great on that either, but My biggest frustration is the internal factors. I think the ref's a joke. I don't think it should be a sending off. I think common sense should be applied. All of that I agree with. I just think from internally, I think Declan Rice was silly. But no one can deny it for the first one. I mean, no one wants to bring up the first one, but the first one's a ridiculous challenge from Declan Rice. I don't know what you're doing making it, mate. It's just silly. And then I think collectively for 20 minutes we just stopped playing. I mean, they had 22 shots on our goal. I know a lot of them were speculative efforts, but majority of those shots came in those 20 minutes. I'm almost certain of it. Like it was just, we just stopped playing. We stopped finding a way of passing to each other. It was really frustrating to me. But I agree with all your points, and all this that will never get applied again. Just like the Martinelli one, I do think they do this early in the season as well, because I also think it's easy not to look back on stuff. Like so much is going to happen from now until May. It's very easy to forget about the first 10, 15 games in the season, isn't it? And go, oh yeah, what are you talking about? So much has happened since then, and all that kind of stuff. But I think Kavanagh's a disgrace. I don't think he should be refereeing our games. And if it was Liverpool, they'd have a petition out already and have it stopped already, like they did last season with that stuff. So, but we don't seem to be able to have quite that power and quite that effect. And but yeah, like Mikel, you could tell Mikel Arteta was livid. So I don't know. Is there anything else to add on the referee stuff? You were right on the Pedro stuff. Veltman doesn't even get booked in the whole game, does he? Which is incredible. I mean, when you see that, really, their left back, I forget his name.
Saka down.
It's
very early into the game as well. When Saka beat him, he was literally hauled down by both shoulders as he's approaching the box. No yellow card. And right. As you said, there were numerous other incidents where Saka's pulled down, kicked down, and a foul's not given. That lack of protection is something we've talked about for a long time. These are England internationals as well. We always said, sign someone like Declan Rice and maybe get a few favourable decisions. Declan Rice doesn't get either of those cards as a West Ham player. Even the first one, I think he probably gets away with it. It's his first, probably gets it waved on, a warning. But yeah, just really frustrating, and it felt like the ref was looking to give us cards, and that's very difficult to play against. But look, I agree with what you're saying about Rice, because I also think, mate, you were right at the start of the second half. You're on a book and don't do anything stupid. And he hasn't had the best start of the season, so just play your way into the game. This is a game that we should be winning probably 3-0. We had plenty of chances in the first half. And I also think your point about Arteta going down to 10 men, and just as you were saying that, I wonder, do you think it's got anything to do with the kind of obsession with positions and where players stand?
Without doubt.
With Arsene Wenger, everything was so much more fluid. So the players took responsibility on the pitch. But even I hadn't thought about it this way, but just from whenever I was listening there, I'm thinking, with everything being so disciplined and so organised, suddenly if someone's gone and there's a hole and no one knows where to go because they're just not used to free thinking, free movements, it is all this juego de position. It's just so disciplined. So that could be a major impact in why we struggle. But I also think we did our pod last night, and I was saying to Jamie that I don't understand why Arteta didn't bring Calafiori on even 5 minutes earlier. I get straight after the red card happens, you want to get the player warmed up. You need to protect the player coming on as well. Give him a few minutes. But he would have been out at half-time warming up as well because they're ready to go. Yeah. So I don't know why it took over 10 minutes to get him on, because if there's a player to bring on, and it's an athletic 6'2" centre-back that can play in midfield. So that would have changed a lot. We could have shored it up at that point, made sure we killed the game, killed Brighton's momentum, but instead we really let them come into it, and we just sat back. And I think that's something that does frustrate me as well. There was no desire to get on the ball and just keep it, like literally keep it by passing it. Keep it away from them. Don't let them touch it. Kill the game that way, because we can do that. Instead, it was literally this low block, and we've seen that before, and it's frustrating because I don't think Liverpool would have gone into a low block in that situation. And the issue we've got with going into a low block is we don't have that rapid pace up front that you can just hoof the ball the length of the pitch and have your Salah or your Diaz or someone like that just chase the ball down. When we go into a low block, it seems like it just keeps coming. It's like a boomerang effect, and that's very difficult if you concede. It's how do you get out of that again? How do you score your second? You put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I would have gone 2 up top with Havertz and Saka basically, and I think we kind of did that. But the delay was there. It took too long. I think it was Trossard that came off for Calafiori. I think it was, and then that made sense to me. Back 5, middle, and push those two up. But it was too late. Like you said, it was too late. They'd already scored by that point. I didn't understand the excessive delay, to be honest. And now we lose Declan Rice for the North London derby, and we've also lost Moreno, who's just trust our luck, but a duel winner that wins every duel, but Gabriel comes along and squashes him in his first practice. And he's out for, I don't know what it is, a couple of months, and we're not really sure. There's some rumours about it, but there's not real diagnosis yet from the club, though he's in a sling, so we can all gather that it's obviously, something pretty serious with his shoulder, and we're definitely going to lose him for the games that we really need him for, because now we have no Rice and no Marino, and we've got to really readjust the midfield. And the midfield hasn't really, for me, shown a great balance, right? There's been a lot of question marks over Thomas Partey, off the ball specifically. I actually think he's been okay on the ball, but off the ball you can clearly tell athletically he's gone. I don't necessarily think it's much worse than it was at the end of last season, to be honest. So people sort of showing it, I'm like, I don't think he's much different. I don't really see that. But I think the fact that Declan Rice isn't able to cover those discrepancies, those issues that he's having, combination is not working. And I don't think Odegaard's had a particularly good start to the season. Obviously, he had a really bad kick on the shin, probably a booking as well from Minte. To be honest, that follow through wasn't nice, and he didn't look like he was moving comfortably. He came off relatively early I know we were down to 10 men, but for Martin Odegaard, and he I don't think he's been great either. He had a 47% pass accuracy in this game. Martin Odegaard. I mean, you're never going to see it again, are you? So that's just a crazy kind of stat, but it shows. I think also, Adam, and this is where I think it is a bit more of a structure issue, that one of the last teams you want to sit a low block into is Brighton. Do you know what I mean? They are, out of the top 4, they're probably the most progressive team out there, right? I mean, they want to be on the ball. They want to be on the ball all the time. So that's the last thing you want to do. And if you do it, make sure you're really good when you get the ball in transition. And we were, but not for about 20 minutes. And then we started to figure out, okay, I know how to get at this team now, and we can do it. And we became, I think, probably had the better chances, to be honest, at that point. But like you said, you weren't going to get loads of those with 10 men, so you have to put those away, but you also have to make sure you don't concede, and we'd already done so. So that was the frustrating thing. But like you said, I mean, Neil, in the first half, if we go back to it a little bit, which is hard to do after talking about all of that, but like Adam said, I thought we were terrific in the first 20. I thought we petered off a little bit in the last 20 in the first half, but created some great chances early on in the first half. Our goal actually came in that latter 20 minutes, which was a fantastic sort of long ballish, right? It was like a little man to big man kind of thing from Saka to Havertz, and a terrific finish. And that they've both been our best outfield players all season, I think. I mean, all the chances are falling to them, but that's because of them, their endeavour, their work rate, right? I mean, if we're going to do anything this season, Neil, those two are the ones we're relying upon, but it also really shows that we don't quite have something anywhere near it on the left.
Yeah, I think they are key. They are one of our partnerships. We talk about partnerships. I think Havertz, I still will prefer. I'm still going to say he's been our best player of 2024. I mean, Rare is starting to look really good. He saved us again. I think you were mentioning that they had a chance to go 2-1 up after that debacle, and they'd already equalised. So I think he threw himself at another ball, which initially I think he was going the wrong way. So Raya is getting better and better for me, but game by game, but from an outfield player perspective, I actually think Kai Havertz is our best player at the moment. I'm going to say it. I agree with you. I don't think Odegaard has actually had a good start to the season, as is Rice. I don't think the players that we expect to be doing very well are doing well at the moment. So I don't think as a team collective we're out of third gear yet. So 7 points out of 9, although it's a kick in the teeth because we know how good City are. Isn't a bad overall situation for us at the moment. Albeit we have got 2 very difficult away games coming up. Oh well, it's going to be 3 because we've got the Champions League sandwich between the 2 of them, and that's another away game I think against Atlanta. I could be wrong. But,
Thursday night game before the City away game.
Yeah, so Christ, that's going to be a tough week for us, and we could have done with Mourinho not being injured because we could have had some rotation going on, especially with Rice missing the North London derby. But yeah, Kai Havertz for me, Saka, they're a very important in partnership. As you said, at the left, it doesn't seem to be working for me. I've always thought that I as much as I love Trossard, I think he's always better as he comes on as a sub. For me, he's much more effective as a sub. I've struggled when he's come on and started. I don't think I've seen him as effective, if you look at it, coming on and starting a game rather than when he comes on, as opposed to when he comes on as a sub. So, yeah, it's all about that. But I think that move for the goal is started by Timber, I think. It's his long ball from the back. And then obviously Dunk and Saka, which is a real mismatch in terms of body size. Saka gets the better of him, but then after that deft lob by Kai, it just shows that he's full of confidence and he's on form. It was a fantastic goal, to be fair. I think it's the first touch lob as well. Just brilliant. And I think that marks the difference between his confidence levels and Martinelli's confidence levels at the moment, just day and night. And I hope that Martinelli resumes or regains some of that confidence very, very quickly. But that was a fantastic goal. But I think most of the stuff that you see that could potentially lead to something comes from them later on in the game. There was another chance created by the 2 of them, and unfortunately, I think I wish it had been the other way around. I wish it had been Saka laying the ball off to Kai because he's slightly bigger and he could have reached it better, or had a bit of an better impact with his final touch. Saka was stretching, but that could have won us the game. That, and I think Havertz had another chance even before that, which is laid on. I think started off by Gabriel at the back, and he had another chance, but his final touch was just a little bit too soft. So, I think if things are going to happen for them this part of the season, I'm hoping the others progress and they get better as well. And especially with the changes we've made in the transfer window, we could start seeing some stuff from other players. Raheem Sterling to be one, potentially. Mourinho, maybe when he starts, maybe can unlock doors as well. I think at the moment it is going to be heavily reliant on Saka and Kai. And that's not ideal, but they're doing the business, getting the numbers. Saka, 3rd assist in 3 games, 3 and 3, which is equal to Thierry Henry's record. Kai Havertz, I think, in 21 goals, he's been involved in 18 of them or something like that. Some crazy stat. They're tremendous players. And Kai Havertz, for me, is the outfield player of the moment for us. So that's why I see it.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, and he is, in that, that's why I was so frustrated we didn't change it earlier, because he can play the 8-9 role really well. I mean, he is that player, and he's got such an engine on him. And the chance in the second half when we go down to 10 men, which is just brought out through his speed and hard work and strength. And I wasn't actually disappointed in the finish. I thought it was just a great save from the goalkeeper, to be honest. I mean, he's holding off the player. I was obviously frustrated. Actually, I was frustrated because Saka didn't go down. That's why I was frustrated. I was like, Saka, mate, you go down all the time outside the box. Rightly, you're getting fouled, but you've got to go down there a little bit. We can't be that honest. Stop that now. Stop all that. You got contact, go down. Obviously, the ref wouldn't have given it anyway, but you know what I mean. Like, that was the frustration. But Adam, what I was actually very impressed with in the first half was how much we limited them. I mean, they've been, clearly a very good side. New young coach, spent 200 million this summer. They've got some really great players, a good bench as well. But I don't recall a chance for them in the first half until we went down to 10 men, to be honest. I think Matoma had a speculative volley that went wide, which was from a Partey error, by the way. And I think that's something we'll talk about a little bit later. But I was very, very impressed with defensively. I know people will touch on Yuri and Timber's on the ball efforts and things like that, but I think it's a clear sign that defensively with Timber, as opposed to Zinchenko. I think in this game and the Villa game, which I put their 2 chances in the Villa game. Sorry, you weren't on the last pod, but I put them down to just individual errors, to be honest. I think we're far more defensively secure, and I think it's been a good sign. I don't know what your thoughts are there, Adam.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in the first half, it felt like we were going to score, and I didn't feel like we were going to concede. We were getting a lot of chances. Brighton put a highlight reel out of their keeper, and he made a lot of saves in that game. Whereas whenever you flip it on its head and you look at what Raya had to do, he's actually had very little to do. It was more collecting balls in the air, being very safe, proactively putting out fires. And across the back, I think I agree with you. Timber looks very solid. I don't think on the ball he's fully come into his own yet, but he's been out for a year, and that's something that we have to remember. We've played against 2 very good teams in Villa and Brighton. So really what you want there is someone that's very good defensively. On the ball, I think he's been fine. He probably hasn't had as many touches as he would want. But then again, I think as a whole, our technical quality hasn't been the highest at times. I feel like our build-up's still a bit kind of jaggered. We don't have the fluidity in our movement and our passing that we often have, and that's definitely having an impact as we move the ball up the pitch. I hate to keep bringing it up, but I do feel that we've got a lot less security on the ball when Thomas Partey plays, because I think he's always looking for something more adventurous. Sometimes I think you just need that metronome. You need to keep the ball moving, keep hold of it. And if you look at our numbers in the run-in last season when Partey came back, we had a lot less possession in every game because he plays with higher levels of risk. He plays with more excitement than other players do in the 6th position. And people think that's control when actually it's the opposite. It's great to see when it comes off, and there's times where he can completely open up a game, but then there's other times where you just think, mate, just play the safe pass. You don't need to break the lines with every pass. And I think the back 4 never looked fully comfortable with Partey in front of them in the way they do with Jorginho or even Rice in there. So yeah, but defensively, I think we looked a lot more secure in this game. And as you mentioned earlier, Brighton had over 20 shots. Most of them were speculative. They weren't troubling Raya. He didn't have to make many big saves in this game. And a lot of shots went off target as well. Mitoma's volley in the first half, that was well wide. Reds just watches that sail past the goal. And that was a collection of errors. And I kind of feel that's something that we're seeing in our game at the minute. Thomas Partey made the initial mistake. Then Kai Havertz comes to flick the ball back and ends up heading it straight to Mitoma. It's these errors that we're seeing, but individual errors can be ironed out. That's something that does happen as the season goes on. So I'm not too worried about that. Our defensive structure looks really sound, and that's ultimately what I'll be looking at as the season goes on. It's what are you doing as a collective, because the technical side, the fluidity, the individual performances, they'll all grow. A lot of these players are only back. But then you look at Kai Havertz, he also came back late, played virtually every game last season, played every game for Germany in the Euros. He's just a machine. His fitness levels are insane. And it's hard when you look at that and then you look at someone like Declan Rice, and Rice looks really off the pace at the minute. He is struggling. I don't know with Rice if it's rest or if it's games, because there's some players, like if you look at Granit Xhaka, he just needed to play all the time. And I kind of think Rice is in that category. I think Saka may be the same as well. I think we worry a lot about Saka with rest and recovery, but he talked himself during the Euros about how much focus he puts on rest and recovery after a game, so he feels good to play every week. And so, yeah, I think there's certain players that need that rhythm. But the individual mistakes in our game should be ironed out pretty soon. This break's maybe coming at a good time because Jesus should be back, Sterling will be available, and he has 2 weeks to integrate with the camp. It's more the midfield that worries me at the minute, because I think our defensive structure looks good. When Timber plays there, he looks fine. Although I think Calafiori's looked really good when he's come into games. So let's face it, our defensive unit really strong, but we've gone from being really light up top to suddenly our midfield looks threadbare at the minute.
Yeah, and I think Calafiore, it's more if not no, sorry, when not if. When he comes in, it's just integration, isn't it? I mean, you can tell he's ready, physically, etc. We're just biding our time, and we've got a lot of depth there, so that's not the area of concern. But like you say, midfield, the problem we've got, I think it is minutes and time with Declan Rice, but the problem is we're giving him minutes, one in very, very taxing games, but two in the 8, and the way Declan Rice plays the 8 is very different to the way Granit Xhaka plays the 8, because Granit Xhaka would play the 8 and kind of make the ball do the work, but Declan Rice eats up that space with his legs, doesn't he, really? I mean, he's not someone that's delivering 15 balls out to the left wing like Granit Xhaka was, like clockwork, which Mourinho may be. Declan Rice really is effective in the 8 by carrying the ball and moving in between the ground and covering back at the 6 and almost acting like a box-to-box midfielder, and covering far more ground at far greater speeds than Xhaka was, and we needed to do that from the 8.
A bit like Ramsey, wasn't it? It reminds me of Ramsey a little bit like that.
Yeah, with more obviously speed of foot and a sort of dual winning ability, and I think he's obviously more defensively switched on than Ramsey was. But the problem we've got, Neil, is, I mean, as much as you're right, and it's shocking that we're losing him, and we're so we need to learn how to play without Declan Rice, because if we're going to play him in the 8 regularly, and I think we all think that may not be the case, and we might move him back to the 6, but if we are, we can't do it for the amount of games we've got this season, especially after the Euros that he's had. He is going to have to not play or play a lot of games back at the 6 to sort of save his legs and his body. So as much as I'm looking at it going, I don't even know we're playing midfield in the next game, at the same time we have to learn how to play. Do you remember last season, City, I think every game they lost basically was without Rodri, and suddenly this season they don't even look like they miss him. We have to get to a point where we are able to play and function without Declan Rice in the team, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen, whether it's for suspension or the fact that we have to let him have a breather. I don't think he's going to be able to complete the amount of minutes that he did last season, unless we drop him back to the 6, because it's less taxing on the body. But I don't think it is. So we are going to have to learn how to do it without him, and that's kind of a bit, overwhelming and stuff like that. But I think we are, to be honest, because we've not been able to get the recovery in that we have for these players that I think I was talking to Adam offline about that City have, because everyone's going, oh, look at City, and obviously they've got a better squad than us, but they're able to do it because they're playing nobody at the moment, to be fair, and they've got their schedules perfectly mapped out as always, and we haven't had that luxury in the start of the season. Euros, everything's late, and then we've got a very, 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 very tough start. It's not an excuse; it's just a fact. What's your thoughts on their goals, Neil? Neil. I think obviously Partey's, he doesn't follow Pedro, does he? I mean, I don't think it's for the will of it. I just don't think he's got the legs to follow Pedro, but he doesn't track him, and he doesn't, predict that he's going to maybe get a follow up. But I also think. I think Saliba and Gabriel are both to blame for it, because I don't think they quite know who's going for the ball. It splits them in two, really. I personally think, actually watching it back, that Saliba probably should take a little bit more responsibility, because he's faster than Gabriel, but he kind of looks like he believes Gabriel's got it covered, and he doesn't have Neil.
I'm not going to put individual blame on that part of the game. I think that's when we were shell-shocked. We didn't know how to kind of adapt, like you guys were talking about earlier. We're being reduced to 10 men. You're right, Jack. I clearly remember those days when I used to actually tell my mates when we used to go and watch the games under Wenger, and I said, why don't we just start with 10 men, because we seem to play better with 10.
Unbelievable.
He was incredible. He was. I don't think I've ever seen a manager who.
Sorry, little pause there. We get this every now and then on
the
our
world.
podcast.
He was a master of it. Unbelievably so. And I used to say, just let's start with 10, because I think we're better. It's a better team with 10. But I think it shell shocked us, and I think our defence was all over the place. Whether Partey is responsible for that, or maybe he is, and we just didn't know how to deal with it. I think. When it happened, maybe they were actually really shocked with the fact that he was given a second yellow. We don't know. We don't know how the players react to certain things. But this is where I think we might be still a little bit immature. We've been great in the last two seasons. Let's not kind of debate that. We have been brilliant. We have progressed a lot. But it's these kind of little incidences where I think we need to be a bit more cute and clever about how we set about dealing with it and adapting it. And I don't know whether that's an Arteta thing, whether it's an individual coaches for different areas or different players, or the players themselves. They've got to think about, in this scenario, if we're down to 10 men, what do we do? And I think they were just all shell shocked. So Partey could be to blame. I think you're right. I think Saliba and Gabriel maybe thought each other were going to be dealing with it. But to be honest, Jack, I'll be completely honest with you. You guys will say more on it. I saw it coming. It was coming. The way that they were playing, we got ourselves together a little bit better after that. But I think in that period, it was coming, and we could have been 2 or 3 down at one stage. Ray, I think Adam touched on it earlier. He got us out of a couple of sticky situations. So I'm going to say it was a collective error for the goal. And it's just unfortunate, and it's a shame.
Sorry, little pause there, Ian. Since
the calendar year, or from a certain point, 9 goals up to that point we'd conceded. So now we've conceded 10. That's still a tremendous, record. And I think that kind of proves the point you guys made about how we were worried about our defence. And maybe I think that was a blip. Because I think Gabriel and Saliba, I'm still going to say they're 2 of the best centre-backs in the Prem at the moment.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think Timber is going to get better. I think, coming back from such a bad injury, he's played and he had good preparation before the season, but, you can't expect the wonders from him just yet. I think he's going to improve. And that's with the ball as well as just defending it and progressing with the ball, because we've seen him do it. We saw him score that goal in the pre-season friendly, didn't we? I think it was a tremendous goal that he scored. So we know that he's got it in his locker. So I'm not worried at the moment, not yet. It's too early. It's only 3 games in. It's early doors. I think we'll be able to change a few things and improve. But my worry or concern is we need to put something in the training outside of the games to deal with going down to 10 men, because we were shell-shocked for a good chunk of the game after that, and I think that's what led to the goal.
And he's so good with discipline. Obviously, that's a reason for Mikel Arteta. I mean, we're top of the fair play league, under Mikel Arteta last season. I know we had a lot of red cards early in his career, but since he's made the team his own, that's a big factor that he looks at, right? Discipline of his team and making sure they don't do anything silly. But it can be one little incident like this, one little thing, silly thing, that can happen. We have to be ready for it and be able to play. We should be playing one man down in training. I'm sure we do all of that, but we just didn't look like we were ready. But like I said, Adam, what I was really encouraged about after their goal, and they had that other chance where Van Heck had the shot from outside the box and Raya flew, and he got back really well because the whole goal was open and made a great save. But we had the best chances there, Adam, in transition. Sorry, a little pause here, I think. Hold on. Sorry, little pause, guys. Sorry. We had the best chances in transition, and lots came from Havertz. Hard work. Do you think in either of those, with a Havertz chance or the Saka one, we should have done better? My frustration in both of them was just Saka didn't go down, but what about you?
Really tough, because I think both chances, Havertz does fantastically in both. Unbelievable. The first one is the one that falls to him, and then Brighton had their chance in between the 2 of those. So it was a really mad few minutes of the game where it was very end-to-end and it looked like someone could grab the winner. But first one, very similar to our goal in the sense that it was hoof ball. We literally just hoofed the ball up into the air, and Havertz is on the halfway line whenever that ball's kicked, runs through, shrugs off his man, beautiful first touch to take it down. And a year ago, you couldn't have imagined Kai doing this. I noticed it straight away against Wolves on the opening day. Kai was getting the ball and running, really charging into green space and looking to go beyond the defender. Last year, even in the run-in in the second half, when he was full of confidence, he was holding the ball up and trying to bring others in. He now looks like a player with confidence that he knows he's capable because he's quick. That's something about Havertz that I don't think he ever gets credit for, but he is actually quite fast. He gets that ball, turns, carries it, and he is tussling with the defender right up. You can see he's completely off balance as he's entering the box, manages to get himself upright again, and then shoots. And at that point, I think it's a good save, and I think he's probably if he had another foot and was able to take that second touch there, probably does better. Very, very difficult in that situation. The only one option that I think he has is to try and chip the keeper at that point, because the keeper does very well to close the goal out. And when you're off balance, he can't go near post because he hasn't got himself, his body's not in the right shape to do it there. And I don't think it's on to shoot with his right to go across goal. And again, it's because the defender's done so well in the tussle and the lead up. Yeah, maybe he could do better, but I think he's got a very limited number of options, and he does very well. The Saka chance, again, I think Saka's extended himself as far as he can go to get that ball. He's got it that he hasn't done more, but it's tough because I've thought about it. Could he started sprinting earlier? Could he have got there faster? Again, it's ifs, buts and maybes, but again, it's Havertz down the right, gets that ball, beautiful control, and the cross off his right foot, that's his weaker foot. Again, the Havertz that we saw last year, he'd have got that, he would have pulled back, he'd have looked for support. There's no way he unleashes that cross on his weaker foot down the right-hand channel. And these two are carrying our attack at the minute, the way they're interchanging. You mentioned it earlier, going to two up top. We saw Havertz going out right, and I think maybe part of that was, let's get Havertz doing some of more of the defensive work, and let's try and get Saka in the final third. Because maybe that was Mikel looking at it and thinking, Saka is our most dangerous player, but we're getting him to do a lot of defensive work. He's not going to be able to get up and down that line. So Havertz is comfortably able to do that. And brilliant cross. I thought at that point that we would have created a couple more chances. We obviously didn't, but it's hard to say we could have done better. With the Saka one and going down, though, I'm in two minds about that, because I think it's one of those, if he goes down, he probably gets accused of diving. And given how card happy the ref was at that point, I think more just run through and smash that first time, hit it towards goal, try and get it through a body of players. We know Saka can put his foot through the ball, but whenever it broke, the most effective thing to do in that position is literally just smash it. Keeper's down, there's defenders in the way, no one wants to deal with that kind of ball. The minute you take a touch, everyone regroups. We've seen it ourselves. If a Brighton player had taken a touch, suddenly you've got the chance to reset. But very difficult to say either of them should have scored. I've seen a lot of people online complaining, and a lot of people in some of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, and it's like, if we had a clinical striker, it's like that argument just continually frustrates me, because they say City have Haaland. Haaland is the best in the world. He comes to the Prem, breaks a record that Thierry Henry, Luis Suarez, Ronaldo, none of them could break that.
Then they'll say Liverpool have Salah, but Salah is the best in the world as well, or has been, or whatever.
You're talking about literally the two best players in their position. Exactly. That no player has ever hit the numbers from the right wing that Salah has year after year. And we're talking about a player that's, if this is 9th season at Liverpool, something like that, where he's been hitting these insane numbers. Haaland, again, is the best bar none. He doesn't do anything in games. He just scores goals. And
machine.
It's the reality is the only striker that you could go out and get that could potentially match Haaland's numbers or come close is Isaac. And again, would cost an insane amount of money. So we need a clinical striker argument. Yeah, fine. But you're talking about one or two players that can actually do that. People say it as if there's an abundance. There's not. You're talking about a very few, a very small pot of players that can hit those numbers. And yeah, when Kai has scored 2 and 3 and is carrying our attack with Saka, I think it's difficult to say a clinical striker changes everything. I think given the chances we had yesterday, we should have had that game killed before the red card came.
Yeah, and the big one as well in the second half that didn't happen was, I think it sort of highlights Odegaard being slightly off the boil, was Calafiori's in acres of space, flying through acres of space. It's a really easy pass for Odegaard. He just needs to shift his body to the left, and he tries to play it too soon, and he's take the extra touch, shift it to his left, and there's just space. It's just space galore, and we've seen Calafiori's highlight reel. That's an area that he loves to fly into. So I was so frustrated that he didn't make that pass, because I think it was an easy pass to make. You could play it high, you you could play it to the side, and he just played it straight into the defender, and we were through there, and that was obviously with 10 men, so you don't get a lot of those opportunities. But look, frustrated. In the end, you take the point, because to be honest, it could have gone either way, couldn't it? In the second half, it could have gone either way. But yeah, I can't complain about Havertz or Saka, because the volume of chances they're getting, that's what's beautiful about those two players. They're going to continue to. We don't have the elite clinical player, so what we have to do is get a lot of volume of chances. And what I'm always encouraged about with Havertz and Saka since sort of January, but Saka obviously further, is they always get a lot of chances. They always create a lot. Lots comes from them. The concern, Neil, and we're going to get onto the transfer window right now, but is if you want to talk about anything on the game that I missed, I could have missed something. There's a lot of stuff there, but is the left wing, Neil. And at the end of the transfer window, I know you hate it, but you must have been a little bit on the edge there. I'm sort of following it hour by hour. And to be honest, I did not think anything was going to happen. Everyone was saying to me it's not going to happen. And I think it was about 4 hours before we realised that. And to be fair, Edu was very transparent on the transfer window. He was like, we didn't really know we were going to do this until very, very late. He was very, very honest about it. And that's kind of interesting, and sort of highlights, something that we don't really think of with this group, as very sort of calculated and calm and thought process. But I mean, Neil, we're going to talk about the whole transfer window as a whole. From my perspective, I would have been so critical right now. Sorry, a little pause again on Neil. I would have been so critical right now of Arsenal if we hadn't made any addition in the attacking line. I would have been tremendously critical. So I'm actually delighted that we've signed someone, and it's not just someone, he's someone that's very, very proven, very experienced. I think he has the ability to start a lot of games for us, possibly in the area that I just mentioned. We haven't talked about Raheem Sterling as a target. We wouldn't have done on this pod. I want to get Adam's thoughts as well. Neil, what's your thoughts? I mean, obviously Marino in, Calafiori, and we've talked about that a lot already. We had to make an addition as soon as we heard the ball was moving on Reece Nelson, which we always said on this podcast was going to be our hardest move of the summer. We knew that we possibly were going to get someone in, and it's a massive market opportunity when you see it from a financial point of view as well, Neil.
You said I'll be honest with you. For those last 6 hours, I was glued to the Sky 409
great,
or whatever it is. Yeah, I was like, Jesus, this isn't me. But I didn't change the channel, which is I'm normally not interested. But boy, I was.
Go on, Neil, son.
I have to applaud. I have to applaud them, because from literally nothing, all of a sudden, everything started happening. It's not just the loan deal of Sterling. We got Eddie was sold very late on for a fairly decent fee. Reece Nelson on loan as well, and that's incredible, because he was actually going to Ipswich and they switched it to Fulham at literally the 11th hour. It's unbelievable. And you know what? And Ramsdale as well. We got Ramsdale over the line, some more money in. I think it's been. Actually, all right, I think people maybe were hoping for a little bit more in terms of the forward position. And yes, we definitely needed someone there. It would have felt very empty, I think, if we didn't get the forward. But I think in Sterling, I've never been his biggest fan. I think probably because of the teams he's played for more than anything else. But actually thinking about it, he has got Prems, he's got the history of being a winner. And we're kind of short of that in our squad, although it's a very good squad. One thing we are short of is actually experiencing winning. And I've said so many times that, we need to win this season to really hold this team together, because there could be a few of them that might start thinking, I love this team, I love the squad, I love the way, I love Arteta's vision, and I love everything that's happening with this club in terms of progression, but we still haven't won a trophy. And, I'm starting to look at my age, and I think I could be winning things at another club. And that is my concern, that some of these really good players that we've got, we don't need to mention them, we know who they are, might start thinking that way. So we really need to win a trophy. And by bringing in the likes of Sterling, and even Mourinho, who's obviously, won the big European Cup at the last minute or whatever it was, when he scored it, you get that. You've got that people that know what it feels like more than anything, to actually cross the line and have something to show for a hard season, or working hard and you've got that reward, haven't you? That tangible reward. And I think that's really important for Sterling to come in and I think he'll be like our senior forward now to mentor the others in a way. You know, as good as Saka is, as good as Kai Havertz is, and as good as all the rest are. And you know, at the moment, the left is floundering a little bit with the Trossard and the Martinelli situation. Now, I believe Sterling can play both sides. I mean, you can correct me, and I think he can also play as a false nine as well. So he's quite versatile up front. I think it's a really clever signing. I think the way Chelsea had him and the way they did, I suppose managed him didn't suit him at all. I don't think he was happy there at all. I think he's going to have a new lease of life here at Arsenal. And I think you're right. I think he's going to start more games than we actually probably would have anticipated. And not only start more games, I think he's going to have a massive impact. I wouldn't even be surprised if he starts against in the North London derby. It wouldn't surprise me. It might not happen, but it could do. It could do. And the other thing is, you're talking about, this is just a bit of a funny one for me, but it might not be funny, but you're worrying about the midfield and what we could do with Declan Rice suspension. Zinchenko in midfield. It seems to be quite good in mid. We've got Calafiori, he can play in that place. We'll have Zinchenko in midfield. You never know. It could be a really weird setup that could work, but now's not the time for experimentation, I guess. But I think the window over the whole was very, very productive in that respect. Thank goodness Eddie's gone, and that's all with due respect. He needed a move as well, as much as we needed to, I think, release him for his career. I think Crystal Palace is a great place for him. I want to say thank you to Eddie, Reece Nelson. I know Nelson's on a loan, but I want to say thank you to these players, Ramsdale. You know, they've done some good things for us as well. You know, they've got a lot of criticism, especially Eddie, I guess, but they've done some great things. I'll never forget that last-minute winner by Nelson against Bournemouth. You know, let's thank them. And, you know, not forget, we also got a number 2 goalkeeper in as well, didn't we? Neto, another experienced player. And I think we also got a young keeper in. I mean, we're all for keepers, aren't we? We're obsessed with keepers.
So we wanted another one, apparently, but they turned us down. So
it's like crazy. It's like, Jesus Christ. But, yeah, so I think overall, that's a great window for both sales and purchases. And I can't wait to see Mourinho. It's just bloody our dumb luck. He gets injured straight away. So he would have been ideal with Rice's suspension. You guys talked about it. We're so fine. We're disciplined, but we're so finely tuned. We lose one key player and it throws us all a filter. That's what happened when we went down to 10 men. We just don't know how to handle it. We lose one of the main important cogs in our team and we just falter. Yeah, we recovered a little bit in the last 20 minutes. But this is the problem. This is my concern, that we have got to become what City are. They can lose 5 or 6 first-team players and still be as good as they are with those 5 or 6 players. That's where we've got to. I think we've still got a lot to learn, and maybe that could be a little bit of immaturity, a little bit of experience. But I'm sure that will come with time. So I congratulate the guys on the window. I thought it was a pretty good, decent one, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, on our transfer pod, Adam, I mean, we were talking big, weren't we? We were talking about Nico Williams and Sesko and Isaac and who do we want out of those? And obviously, I'm not going to act like Sterling was high up on that list. However, I do think the bare minimum, and this is what I was saying to a lot of people offline in the week, the bare minimum was that we had to do better than Reece Nelson and Eddie. Because for me, they were players in the squad that were just making up numbers, in all fairness to them. I don't believe they were going to be used for anything meaningful minute-wise this season. I know Eddie was last season. Basically, from January onwards, he wasn't. And Reece Nelson wasn't across the board. So I was really, in the end, delighted because I didn't think anything was happening on the final day. I'm fure, like all of us, I felt it was too late. And I knew that you basically could rule out the big stuff by that point. What are your thoughts, Adam, or if you want to add anything on Raheem Sterling? I think he provides something really different to what we've got, like Neil said. I think he provides proven goals and assists across multiple seasons, and he's different type of player than what we have as well.
Yeah, I think that's key. It's a different type of player, and I agree with what both of you have said. It wasn't what we expected the window to be. Let's be real. Mourinho, to me, felt like a market opportunity that was allowing us to go big in attack. That obviously didn't materialise. It seems that we still kept chasing Nico Williams until quite late. Whether that's true or not, that has frustrated me, because I think if a player says, looks unlikely at the end of July, move on. make sure you get someone in. I think we would have been really light up front if we didn't bring Sterling in. I agree with what Neil said. He does bring proven goals. I also think that he could start the North London derby because I don't think Trossard or Martinelli have done enough to prove themselves or grab that shirt. But the big thing for me is Sterling brings pace. And that's something that I don't think we've got enough of in the team. He's someone that if you're playing against a settled low block, he will just get the ball and run a defence. And he plays with such tight control. He can wiggle his way into the box. That creates chaos in itself. And Jesus is the only real dribbler that we've got that can be unpredictable. But if you look at what Sterling was doing last year at Chelsea, when he didn't have a great season, he still scored 9 goals. A lot of the chances he created weren't being finished, and he got into the box time and time again for them in those positions and caused chaos. He can also run in behind, and he can spring that trap that, again, we don't really have anyone to do at the minute. So, look, I'm not going to pretend he was top of my list. He's a player that I've loved since he broke through. Would have loved him at Arsenal 5 years ago, but it feels like a signing that was brought on by desperation. It was a market opportunity that came up as a result of Chelsea's circus, whatever you want to call it. And that has frustrated me because you mentioned about how calm and calculated Edu is and everything that he's been doing. We heard about the 180-page dossiers he's got on players, all of this, that they had a plan since January. I mean, let's face it, Sterling wasn't in that plan. He's been transparent about it. The goalkeeping situation has frustrated me. I'm not going to lie about that. And it seems that from the James McNicholas article in The Athletic, it seems like it's actually caused some frustration internally as well. We went after Dan Bentley early in the window, offered 50 grand. Wolves wanted $1 million. That felt like a deal that could have been done for, even if you pay $750,000 for him, which is a lot more than you want, get that done, move on. You've got your third choice keeper in, just do it, move on. It doesn't really affect things massively. It would have been a homegrown player in the door. Again, you just move on. It's money that you can absorb. Charlie Patino's sale covered that. And it's a distraction that you don't need late in the window. Again, I think some of the sales impacted our incomings because Marseille messed us around with Eddie. Then Forest put in that relegation release clause of 75% wage deduction up for Eddie. And apparently that was an 11th hour introduction. That deal was virtually done. Then Palace came in very late in the window. So that was the sale we were trying to do. Thankfully, Smith Rowe's sale went through early. But, I mean, Ramsdale again, I think the club were right in what they did. They held firm on Ramsdale and with Eddie, made sure that we got the money in, because otherwise, say, my worry with Ramsdale was he went on loan, didn't perform as well as we expected him to, and suddenly you've got a Kieran Tierney boomerang that's coming back, and next summer he's still on those massive wages. And my issue with the loan as well is the club still know Arsenal want to sell next summer. So it's not like Saliba where he was going away, he proves himself and suddenly he's got a place in the team. With Ramsdale, he could go away, have the best season in the world, but he's playing for a team that aren't playing it out from the back, and he's gone back into his comfort zone. Arsenal aren't going to play him. We still need to sell him. He's still on massive wages. So I think it was a great piece of business. The fee that we got, we've also got around the sell-on clause that Bournemouth had, because it was, I think we've got an 18 million base fee for him. Anything over 19 million in base fee led to a 15% sell-on clause for Bournemouth, which to me shows that it wasn't a great deal that we got in the first place. We did overpay for him. Then we give him this massive contract. The whole goalkeeper situation for a long time has been a bit of a circus at Arsenal, and I firmly believe that Arteta made a mess of it last summer. I think Raya is the right man for the job. Jack, me and you have talked a lot about Raya and the impact he's made, but I do think it was still badly handled by the club and led to Ramsdale's confidence being completely obliterated. But we've got a good fee for him, and I think the main thing is we can move forward without those players. And a bit like Neil, I hope both Eddie and Reece do really well, both academy players that have stepped up in big moments for us. But yeah, ultimately the window for me, I think it's it's good to a degree. He's a specialist in that left 8 position. He's someone that will give Arteta exactly what he wants. He knows what to do. It's just incredibly frustrating that he's come in and got injured straight away, especially with Jesus out. Tomiyasu, who knows how long he's going to be out. So right now, we're only seeing Calafiori from the window, but give it a few weeks and suddenly you've got Sterling in the mix, you've got Marino in there, you've got Calafiori, and that window looks a lot stronger because City didn't add much and lost Alvarez. Liverpool have only added Chiesa. So we know we're already very strong, and we've still added 3 players plus a backup keeper. So yeah, I think in a month's time, 6 weeks' time, everything's going to look very different for us. But I do hope there's something in the pot in January, because otherwise you have to ask, where's the money gone? Yeah,
I see what you mean on that. Though I do have to say, and I'm not always like the biggest supporter of the board, I think they were well within their right to ask for money to be recouped this summer, because I think we've spent a lot without really recouping any money properly. I mean, there's been the odd sale, the Willock and the Iwobi, but across the board, we've sold pretty poorly over the last 3 or 4 years, and we've spent quite extravagantly. So I mean, this was clearly a player doesn't come in without a player going out. It was a 1 in 1 out window the whole way, wasn't it? Really, all the signings happened alongside a similar fee sale. Calafiori, Smith Rowe, couple of days. Eddie and Marino. I know Eddie didn't get announced till late, but basically a couple of days. It was kind of like that. It was quite interesting the way it happened with that, but. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I expected us to spend a lot more. What I was really encouraged about was that we kind of held our own this time with sales. We've become a club that can be respected in terms of sales again. It wasn't extravagant fees, but for all the English players we had. I do wonder as well, it's not come up, but I wonder if Sterling had a little bit of a homegrown factor there. I'm not sure, but all of the sales were and loans were basically homegrown players. Ramsdale, Eddie, Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe. I know we have, Winieri and Lewis Skelly coming up, and, third goalkeepers that might be English too, but I wonder if that may have been a factor on the movement there on Sterling. But I mean, in terms of the deal itself with Sterling, I think the season Martinelli was fantastic. He was the top dribbler in the league. Last season it was Kudus, and Martinelli was nowhere near. He wasn't in the top 10. But the season before that, Martinelli was he completed the most successful dribbles in the league. And I think if you can get Sterling anywhere near his peak, from what I know of Sterling and watched him, he's a player that just loves to run with the ball, and we don't have anyone really. We have a lot of ball to feet players, not people that want to run with the ball at speed at defenders. And when Sterling, I know he's aging, but he's 29. He's not past it or anything. If we can get him back to that sort of level of fitness, he has productivity that we actually don't know. We don't have the productivity that he's ever achieved in this league. He's scored and assisted over 20 goals in this league 3 times before. We don't have that productivity. Saka's the only one that comes close, really. So yeah, I think like you, I think he's got a great opportunity, and he should be looking at that. He should be watching that left wing on Saturday, thinking, if I can get my net self anywhere, I might be able to start for this team, at least in some games, And the beauty of it, like you said, is he has the ability to cover on the right wing. And I think it's a huge level up. With all due respect to Reece Nelson, I think it's a massive, massive level up. I wouldn't have picked him like you, Adam, and I wouldn't have been massively excited about it 2 months ago if someone mentioned it. But when you see the deal, I mean, I think Chelsea are paying more of his wages than we are, aren't they? It's quite incredible. And also, Adam, what you just brought up there, City, if you look across the board with the top teams, it's been pretty difficult to get a top winger in. I mean, other than Elise, Michael Elise, who would have been a fantastic signing, I think. There's not really been a lot of top wing, and all of the ones we wanted stayed. Sesko, Isaac, Williams, Neto obviously went, but you can understand why we didn't go to 55 million on that injury record. I mean, I think it's quite understandable, to be honest. So what's quite encouraging is, I mean, Liverpool got Chiesa, but that again was more of a market opportunity for them.
Well, he was offered around every club.
Yeah, exactly. And he has a big injury history like Neto as well, so you can understand it from other clubs. Why were Juve just shunning him completely out? It's not typical. He wasn't on a huge wage, or like Sterling was. They just said he was not part of their plans. That was very interesting from a player that had been with them for a long time. Very, very strange. And the frustration, I know you say that about City, but City, they've got a fantastic player in Savinho that's come in and,
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, corruptly come in because of how he's come through in terms of, these feeder clubs that I don't believe should be allowed to exist in Europe, and Chelsea and Man City are the biggest culprits for it. And they both, I really, really pray they've got their comeuppance coming, really. But I do think City have strengthened in that sense because he's a really nifty dribbling winger that we lack. But I think Sterling, I look at our front six now. You got Saka, Havertz, Martinelli, but then behind that, Trossard, Sterling, and Jesus. I think that's really, really strong, and there's some really, really good experience there as well. Let's hope we can get Sterling. Maybe he's a little short fitness-wise for Tottenham to start, maybe. I don't know, because he's not been playing any games in the first
all of their pre-season.
He did play all their pre-season.
This is the strange thing about Sterling. He played every game in pre-season for them and then got dropped in the first game. A lot of reports had him down as one of their best players in pre-season. He played against City and scored against them. I
saw that.
The best player on the pitch. There's a comp out there if anyone wants to look it up. But look, Raheem Sterling's not come here to sit on the bench. That's something that I think everyone needs to realise. He's not coming as a backup option. He wants to play for England again. He wants to win another title. And this is a guy that's a proven winner. So look, I think he's coming in and he's seeing that left wing position and he will want to take it. But what's interesting as well about him is I think he's played 280 games on the left wing and about 160 on the right wing. And then the rest of his games have come through the middle. This is as genuine of a multifunctional forward as Arsenal could have signed. He can give you the Saka backup, but I think he will be eyeing that left wing position and saying, that's mine, I've come here to take that. So that's only going to be good for us because Martinelli responds well to competition. I think Trossard will too. But the six players you mentioned, I don't remember a time when we had six players of that quality all competing for places. That is really strong. And yeah, City are an unbelievable team, but we haven't hit our stride yet. And the Brighton game will make it look like we're in a worse place than we are. But look, it's one game. And every drop point seems like a massive thing at this stage. But yeah, once everyone's back and we've got a bit of rhythm going, this team are good enough and we've added well enough to really push City much further this year. Yeah,
agree. Really exciting. I know there's been some rumours about his number, but I've been on the Arsenal website. I've not seen anything that says he's number 10. There's been rumours, there's been stuff posted about seeing it. I personally am not seeing it on my end. A few boys have seen it. Let me know. But you do expect that he could be 10 or 14, knowing the availability of those two numbers. And I don't know why. That was something I couldn't get around my head either in the last week of the window. I mean, I was tweeting it almost daily. I was like, we can't leave the 10 and 14. You can leave one of them free, but you cannot leave the 10 and 14 free at a club like Arsenal for a whole season. It just wouldn't sit right with me. So I get the feeling he's taking one of those, which will be quite exciting to see. So
Arsenal put an ad out the other night saying, get your, see, I've got it up here, get your number 10 Sterling shirt or whatever.
Where did they put the ad out?
So I saw it on social media, so that's when I messaged you. Get your Sterling number 10 shirt now from Arsenal Direct. And then the link stopped working. So there seems to be no confirmation. It could have been an error.
I presume they're saving something for this week with some details on Sterling. I presume. I don't know, but
yeah, you could. It's one of those cash in. It's a quiet week. Do some probably media content and sell some shirts as well. Yeah,
exactly. But before we go, moving on to, like you said, the next game, it gets bigger and bigger, doesn't it? So it's Tottenham away, North London derby. They've had a little indifferent start, but I've watched them, and to be fair, they've been a little bit unlucky. They should have beaten Newcastle today if they had their shooting boots on. They created a lot more than them, and Newcastle kind of caught them on the break, and that might be a thought on how we play, but obviously we're missing Declan Rice. Neil, predictions, if you do have it, I know you don't like line-up stuff, but how do we adapt and adjust without Declan Rice there? It's because obviously we don't have Marino.
God, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Because if you talk about Jorginho, then he's more of a 6, isn't he? and as Partey is. So how do we do this? I joked about Zinchenko earlier. I don't know.
Well, my thought is that we drop Havertz back in, but
it could be. And we're thinking about Sterling on the left, but how about this? He plays. He brings, as you said, he brings in Havertz, takes him to the 8. Jorginho or Partey will stay as the 6. Probably stick with Partey. I don't know. Maybe might give Jorginho a chance. But then he plays Sterling at the 9. You never know. You just never know. Rather than Jesus, and keep Trossard or Martinelli to start on the left. I don't know. It's quite interesting. The inclusion of Sterling now in this squad could change up so many things game by game. It really could do that. But it's difficult to say exactly. I think the back of the obviously the defence will stay as it is for me. I can't see Saka not starting. He's going to start the North London derby, surely. But yeah, the midfield is a little bit of a conundrum for me. I'm not 100% sure how he's going to play it. But yeah, you could be right. He could drop Havertz to the 8. Jesus then comes in at the 9. But I don't know. I've got a sneaky feeling we're going to see Sterling for this game. And it might be from the start. Whether it's on the left, the 9, I don't know. I've just got this suspicion that he's going to start. Having said all of that, just before I give a prediction, I just want to say something I forgot to mention earlier. I'm absolutely quite appalled how both Rice and Saka are England stars, and they're pretty decent England stars. They're up there as far as England go, and they never receive any protection. And I remember all the darlings of the England past all received protection from the refs, every single one of them. Harry Kane, Shearer, Gascoigne, you name it, they all got it. But Rice and Saka, nothing. And it really boils my piss, I'm going to say. And I don't like swearing on this show, but it really has infuriated me. I don't know, I've kept remarkably calm for a change, but I'm seething about Saturday. Yeah, you talk about rules and regulations, but it's always different when it comes to Arsenal, always different when it comes to Arsenal. And, we're going to have a lot more of that to come this season. We really are. So we've got to be prepared for that, as well as maybe losing the player during the game. And we've got to adapt to all of it. But I think we're only going to get better. I really do think we're going to get better once all our players starts clicking into gear. We get the people coming back from injury. We're just going to be a formidable squad. I still think we're going to win the title. So that's the way I see it. Having said all of that, I think the North London derby is always going to be a difficult game, but I think we're gonna come back strong, and I think we're going to beat them, and I think we'll beat them 2-1. And I will say I'm going to go for it. I think Sterling's going to score. Sterling 2-1, North London derby.
All right. Woo. Well, yeah, it's a massive game. We need to bounce back. So, Adam, what about you?
I think we're going to win it. I think Spurs are a decent side. They have been unlucky, but at the same time, before the Rice red card, just looking at it here, we had 6 shots, 5 of them on target. 3 of them were classed as big chances. Brighton had none. They had 3 shots off target. That shows where that game was. That's what I mean. If it wasn't for that red card, we're going in 3 wins from 3, probably no goals conceded, and completely changes our outlook on the start of the season. So I think we're going to beat Spurs. I would go with Havertz in midfield, like you said. If Jesus is fit, get him on up front. The playing Partey and Jorginho seems like you just don't have the legs in the middle, and that's what Havertz gives you. It's a strong runner, and the big thing as well, people talk about the left 8 experiment with Havertz. He played there 6 times in the second half of the season, and we won 5 of those 6 games. The only one we didn't was the Villa game. And so the whole thing about Havertz at left 8, it's just headlines. Whenever he came, it wasn't just that position. It was the fact his confidence was on the floor. He got the ball, as I said about him now turning and running with the ball and shrugging off defenders. A year ago, he got the ball. It didn't matter where it was. He passed it to the safest option he could see. He wanted rid of it the minute he got it. His good work came off the ball. So I think playing him in the left 8 position is fine now. I think he's got the confidence. And then potentially Sterling on the left. Let's see how he fits in over the next couple of weeks. But one of the things with Sterling that I'm really excited about is this guy's got a lot of fire in his belly at the minute. We're not getting someone that's got his feet up. He could have gone to Saudi and got big money. He could have just stayed at Chelsea with his feet up and earned over 300 grand a week by doing very little. He's come because he wants to be back in the England team. He wants to prove himself. And the way he's left Chelsea, I think, will mean that he's coming in really hungry to play. And he's now got 2 weeks to work with the team. So potentially I would go with him, but I think we're going to beat Spurs. And even without Rice there, I think we've got enough in the midfield that we can find a solution. And the good thing is Arteta has got 2 weeks to find a solution to work on what he wants to do. The issue is a lot of the players are going to be gone. So that's always tough. You've got Thomas Partey going to Ghana. You know what the pitches are like out there. That's a big worry. And I mean, Thomas Partey is just a constant worry. But let's see how he comes back from international duty. But I'm confident that we'll beat Spurs. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, obviously worried because of the players we got out and key positions and stuff like that. And I do think they're a dangerous side, definitely going forward. I think they missed bagfuls of chances this season, but I think if we get our attacking right, we can really hurt them. So I'll give my prediction before yours. I'll go. What did you say, Neil? I'll go 3-1 Arsenal and Odegaard. What about you, Adam? What are you going with?
I'm going 2-0. Saka and Havertz.
Saka and Havertz. Well, you know, it's been like that this season in terms of them two.
No one else is scoring, so I have to go safety first.
It's true. Usually we score by committee, don't we? But it does feel like those two are going to be right at the top of the list this season. I think we're going to need them to be honest. I mean, I think that they're our two best players so far this season, and they probably have been for a while. So, boys, it's been great chatting. We're at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter.
Just quickly, sorry to stop you in your tracks. Just from following what Adam was saying about Sterling and the fire in his belly, I quite liked the official Arsenal, introduction of him. I love that video, and I know you don't go on videos and stuff, but I think that sums up what Adam was saying about he's got the fire in his belly. He's got something to prove. I think he's been truly vexed at Chelsea, truly, like almost suppressed. Why am I suppressed? I'm a talented player. I've got what it takes. I'm a winner, and this is how I've been treated. I think he's going to be coming back with a point to prove. I don't know. I was at the start of the season, I was thinking Timber's going to be the one to watch out for this season. That's what I was always saying, because I said that at the beginning of last season, and unfortunately he got that injury. I don't know. I've got this really funny feeling about Sterling that he's going to be a massive player for us this season. He's going to be really impactful, whether it be by goals or assists or any kind of impactful play up front. And I think he's going to have a significant role to play. I just got this feeling. I think he's got a massive point to prove. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually more I get into it. And this is a player I couldn't stand because of the clubs he played for. It's so bizarre. And I'm thinking, come on, mate, win us the title or help us. And that's the funny irony, isn't it? The way we sold RBP to Man United and handed them the title. I wonder now if Chelsea are going to regret what they've done, and they may have handed us the title this season. You never know with the sale of or the loan of Sterling. Let's wait and see. But sorry to stop you there.
The weird thing was in the first half of the season where Chelsea were all over the place. I remember saying to people, I was like, he was by far their best player last season in the first half of the season. And then they started to, they bought more players, and he came out of the team a little bit, but he was by far their best player. I used to watch him. Anything good they did used to come through him. All his hard work, all his endeavour, really. But hard to judge anyone in that team. They're a complete shambolic mess, aren't they? So, which is always great to see. But that's why he's jumped ship. But at Purely Arsenal FP, on Twitter, we're there at YouTube, just Purely Arsenal. Subscribe to us there. Obviously, Arsenal Therapy podcast, much more regular than us. Much get more podcasts over there with Adam, and I know you've already done your post game one. But Adam, Neil, thanks so much for coming on. This podcast will be out in a week, and obviously we've got some time with the interlull because no one's going to watch that rubbish, are they? Let's be honest. But boys, keep faith. Up the Arsenal. On to the next one.